Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Podcast. If you love getting into the real tactical heart of the game, then you're definitely in the right place.
Absolutely.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of rugby's most talked about strategies, the Springboks bomb squad.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
You, our listeners, have been curious about this, and we've gathered some pretty interesting insights to explore together.
We have indeed.
And hey, if you enjoy this kind of in-depth rugby chat, make sure you hit subscribe to Rugby Obsession so you don't miss out on future discussions.
That's right. What we want to unpack today is the real essence of the bomb squad. What it is beyond the headlines, How the Springboks cleverly brought it to life, the undeniable impact it's had, and, well, why it's got so many people talking. It's about understanding a tactical evolution in real time.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. The bomb squad, it's a pretty explosive name. What exactly are we talking about here? Is it just about big forwards?
Well, yeah, on the surface, it might just sound like bringing on a bunch of fresh forwards late in the game. Pretty simple, right?
Right.
But when you dig a bit deeper, you realize it represents a really significant shift in how a team approaches a match. It's more of a mindset, actually.
A mindset? How so?
It emphasizes the contribution of all 23 players. The replacements aren't just, filling gaps if someone gets injured. They're specifically chosen and deployed for maximum impact.
At crucial moments, you mean?
Exactly. It's timed. So it's not just about having fresh legs. It's about a strategic injection of energy and power, often when the other team is starting to fatigue.
Right. And colloquially, when people say bomb squad, they usually mean that forward-heavy bench, don't they?
That's become the shorthand, yeah. It's strongly linked with that specific type of bench selection instead of the traditional, say, 5 forwards and 3 backs.
A classic 5-3 split.
Exactly. We're often seeing 6 forwards and 2 backs, or, famously, the Springboks have even gone with 7 forwards and just 1 back.
7 forwards. I mean, that really signals a clear intention, doesn't it? There's no ambiguity there.
It absolutely does. And think about the history replacements were primarily there for injuries, for safety.
Yeah, actually.
The bomb squad kind of flips that on its head. It uses these substitutions proactively. They become a core tactical weapon.
So bringing on specific players to target weaknesses or just dominate physically?
Precisely. Introduce players who can inject a different kind of physicality, maybe dominate the set pieces when the opposition props are tiring, or sometimes even shift the entire momentum of a really tight contest.
That must give the starting forwards huge confidence, too, knowing they don't have to pace themselves quite as much.
Oh, definitely. They can essentially empty their tanks, as the phrase goes.
So full throttle from the start.
Right, because they're secure in the knowledge that there's this wave of quality replacements ready to come on, and not just maintain the intensity, but potentially even lift it.
Okay, so how did this whole thing actually start for the Springboks? Was it one coach's idea? A specific moment?
Well, the reporting suggests that concept really started to crystallize in those alignment camps before the 2019 Rugby World Cup.
Right before they won it all.
Exactly. And a key factor was the just incredible depth they had in their forwards, particularly the front row.
Oh, yeah, they were almost spoiled for choice, weren't they? You had Kitchoff and Emek Tawira, Malherbe and Koch, and Bonambi and Marks. Yes, 2 world-class front rows right there.
Absolutely. And then you throw in players like Pieter-Steph du Toit, who's versatile, and the experience of someone like Schalk Brits. It was an embarrassment of riches, really.
A proper selection headache, as they say.
That's the term used, yeah. And Rassie Erasmus, who was director of rugby then, he recognized that just picking a starting XV and having backups wasn't maybe the best way to leverage all that talent across the full 80 minutes.
So he started thinking differently about the bench.
He did, thinking strategically about how that depth could be a weapon.
But, I mean, getting the players on board, especially guys who probably felt they should be starting every week, that must have been tricky.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Player buy-in was everything. And there's a great story, reportedly, from a meeting Erasmus had with the front rowers in Japan.
Yeah.
He basically asked them straight up, would you rather start the game, or would you rather be on the field making the difference when the final whistle blows and we've won?
That's putting it bluntly. What was the reaction?
Well, apparently Tendai Beast Mentawara, the legend, he made it pretty clear he wanted to start, which highlights that initial challenge, that mindset shift needed.
Understandable for a player like him.
Totally. And Erasmus himself said later that the tactic just wouldn't have worked if the players hadn't been willing to embrace their specific roles, whether starting or finishing. He mentioned guys like Stephen Kitchoff just having this attitude of wanting to contribute. Number 1 or number 17 on his back didn't matter as much.
That team-first mentality. Okay, so when did we actually see it deployed?
Yeah.
The first official bomb squad outing.
The 2019 World Cup pool match against Italy, that's often pinpointed as the official debut.
And they went with the 6-2 split then.
They did. A 6-2 forward-back split on the bench. And the impact was pretty clear. Those fresh forwards made a difference in the second half. And that 6-2 split then became their standard through the knockouts.
Against Japan, Wales.
Yep, and right through to that dominant win against England in the final. It was a consistent part of the plan.
Now, there was a bit of controversy around it during that World Cup, too, wasn't there, after the Italy game? Something about celebrations.
Yes, that incident. There were some celebrations after the Italy match, and footage emerged that led to accusations of racism. It looked like Makazole Mapimpi might have been excluded from a huddle of white players.
Right, I remember that causing quite a stir online.
It did. But Erasmus came out quickly and explained it was actually related to a sort of running joke within the team. It was about Lou de Jager, who had started the match, no longer being part of the bomb squad, which was the nickname for the replacements group.
So it was an internal team thing, misinterpreted from the outside.
That was the explanation given. And importantly, Mapimpi himself posted on Instagram shortly after, backing that up. He said it was a joke, emphasized the team unity, and basically shut down the controversy from his perspective.
Okay, that's important context. So back to the on-field success. Clearly, it worked in 2019.
Undeniably. The impact was huge. Think about the quarterfinal against Japan. Maintaining that set-piece dominance with fresh forwards was key.
And against Wales in the semi, that was tight.
Incredibly tight. And the introduction of Francois Lou off the bench, he came on and got that crucial turnover that led to the winning penalty. A huge impact substitution at a pivotal moment.
And the final against England.
Again, the bench played its part. Those fresh forwards helped match and eventually overpower the English pack in those vital final stages. It wasn't just about starting strong, it was about finishing stronger.
And it wasn't just 2019, was it? This became their thing.
Exactly. It wasn't a flash in the pan. We saw it again being effective in the British and Irish Lions series in 2021.
Another bruising encounter where forward power was key.
Definitely. And then again in the 2023 Rugby World Cup win. And remember that warm-up match just before the 2023 tournament against the All Blacks?
The 7-1 split? That sent shockwaves, didn't it? And the record win that followed.
It really did. It was such a bold statement of intent and underlined their commitment to the tactic, showing its potential to just overwhelm opponents physically.
It's interesting, though, because they didn't use 7-1 all the time in 2023.
No, they adapted. They used a more conventional 5-3 split sometimes. But I think the underlying mentality of the bomb squad remained.
What do you mean?
Well, look at the semifinal again. Bringing off Manny Lippick relatively early for Handré Pollard. That's a huge call.
Yeah, taking off your starting fly half.
But if you view it through that lens of wanting maximum impact and control in the crucial final quarter, maybe having Pollard's experience and goal kicking on for longer, it starts to make tactical sense within that finisher's philosophy.
And then they went back to 7-1 for the final anyway.
They did, which showed it was still very much part of their ultimate game plan for the biggest moments.
Okay, so massive success for the Bugs. Naturally, other teams must be looking at this and thinking, maybe we should try that.
Absolutely. We're definitely seeing a trend emerge now. Copycats, you could say, or perhaps just tactical evolution inspired by success.
Which nations are experimenting?
Well, teams like Scotland, England, Italy, they've all started using more forward-heavy benches more frequently. France, under Fabien Galfi, have really embraced it, often going 6-2. And they even use a 7-1 split in the Six Nations recently.
Wow, France too. Even the All Blacks.
Even the All Blacks experimented with a 6-2 split, notably in that heavy defeat to South Africa we mentioned. So yeah, the thinking is shifting globally. The bomb squad's impact is rippling out.
It really shows how innovation can spread. Okay, let's pause here for a second. We want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on the bomb squad? Is it smart tactics? Is it good for the game? Or do you have concerns? Let us know in the comments. And if you're finding this tactical breakdown useful, please do subscribe to the Rugby Obsession podcast. We'd love to have you with us for more deep dives.
It really does spark debate, doesn't it? Which brings us neatly onto the criticisms, because not everyone is a fan.
Right. It hasn't all been smooth sailing. What are the main arguments against the bomb squad?
The primary criticism revolves around player welfare. The concern is about the impact of bringing on, say, 6 or 7 fresh, powerful forwards late in the game against players who might have been on the pitch for 60 or 70 minutes and are naturally fatiguing.
The potential for increased injury risk due to those collisions.
That's the core concern raised by critics. People like Matt Williams, the former coach and pundit, he's been very vocal.
What's his take?
He's called it an abuse of the bench, arguing it goes against the spirit of the game. His view is that the bench was originally intended primarily for safety, for injury replacements.
Not as a purely tactical weapon to bring on waves of massive players.
Exactly. He feels it fundamentally changes the nature of the game towards just power and collisions, potentially discriminating against smaller, more skillful backs. And he's even suggested World Rugby isn't acting because perhaps it benefits the current world champions.
Strong words. Any other prominent voices raising concerns?
Yeah, Scotland coach Gregor Townsend has also voiced concerns, apparently at a World Rugby Summit, suggesting this kind of tactic might not be in the best long-term interests of the sport.
Interesting. And what about from a referee's perspective?
Well, former top referee Nigel Owens has weighed in, too. He suggested maybe reducing the number of substitutions allowed overall, or perhaps limiting them more strictly to injury replacements.
Why? What would be the effect of that?
His thinking is that it might open up the game more in the later stages, as fatigue naturally creates space. It could also potentially influence the physical profile of players, favoring endurance a bit more over sheer bulk if they know they have to last longer.
And any players spoken out?
Ex-Ireland hooker Keith Wood has also called for changes regarding the number of substitutes allowed, echoing some of those concerns about the impact on the flow and nature of the game.
So, quite a bit of pushback from various corners of the rugby world. How has World Rugby itself responded to all this? Are they considering banning it?
Well, for now, it seems the bomb squad tactic is safe. Alan Gilpin, the World Rugby chief executive, has stated publicly that their scientific and medical research doesn't actually support the view that this specific tactic leads to more injuries.
Oh, really? So the data doesn't back up the main welfare concern?
According to Gilpin, no. And interestingly, sports scientist Ross Tucker, who often works with World Rugby, has supported this. He's even suggested that fewer replacements could potentially increase injury risk because players would be playing under greater fatigue for longer periods.
Huh. That's kind of counterintuitive to the criticism.
It is. It adds another layer to the debate. So, based on World Rugby's current stance and the research they're citing, it looks like the bomb squad, or at least the ability to load the bench with forwards, is here to stay for the foreseeable future.
Fascinating. So the debate continues. Tactical masterstroke or a step too far? It really depends on your perspective, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Innovation versus tradition, player welfare versus tactical freedom, it touches on some core tensions within the sport.
Which brings us back to our listeners. We've laid out the history, the success, the controversy. What do you think? Is the bomb squad an innovative advantage pushing the game forward? Or do you lean toward the criticisms about welfare or the spirit of rugby? We genuinely want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, get involved in the conversation.
So that just about wraps up our deep dive into the Springboks bomb squad phenomenon. We hope exploring its origins, its undeniable impact, and the ongoing debate has been insightful.
It's certainly a tactic that shaped recent rugby history.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession podcast for more in-depth analysis and discussions about the sport we all love. We really appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession podcast. We look forward to you tuning in to our next episode.